Welcome to Season 3 of the Climate Conscious Podcast. I'm your host, Deval Bazi, bringing awareness to climate change and sustainable development from a Caribbean perspective, connecting you to sustainability solutions as we move from awareness to action. My special guest today has worked in the manufacturing sector from production line worker to supply chain and logistics assistant for 10 years in paper, plastics, and metals. He holds a postgraduate diploma in e-commerce from the International Academy of Design and Technology, Toronto. From 2010 to present, he operates as a processor and trader for recyclables in the Caribbean region and Tri-States. He is the Managing Director for Recycling, Waste and Logistics, RWL, and is responsible for the first ever multiple materials recovery facility in Trinidad and Tobago. I am delighted to welcome to the Climate Conscious Podcast Mr. Shawn C. Roberts.
Pleasure to be part of your program, your podcast, to see that we're working towards climate change and to make people more aware of waste and recycling, not just from an ecological perspective, but also from an economic development perspective.
Plastics are a feature of modern life, providing many benefits for clothing, food storage, medical, transport, and public health. And it's safe to say that the consumption of plastics, particularly single-use plastics, has increased with the pandemic. However, plastics are a source of significant pollution globally. Plastics do not biodegrade and therefore persist in the environment, filling up our landfills, polluting our waterways and oceans, and impacting marine life. This is extremely critical for the Caribbean, which depends heavily on the marine environment and the blue economy. So, your company, Recycling, Waste and Logistics, RWL, recently launched an innovative project in partnership with the Tobago House of Assembly. A multiple materials recovery facility, also known as a materials recovery depot, was established in Shore Park, Tobago. Shawn, how will this facility address the plastic pollution problem?
The first step of what we embarked into as we speak, we first focus on setting up the recovery facility so that we can be able to focus our attention on recovering as much plastics and other recyclable waste material from the waste streams. That's from homes, businesses, and institutions. Institutions meaning schools, churches, civil society groups, village councils, sports clubs, etc. When the first phase of recycling, when you get into recovery, that is where you will be able to determine the scale of volume as to the various grades and types of plastics that are generated as a waste. That way you can be able to determine the feasibility and the appropriate type of processing facilities in order to recycle the recovered plastic material into intermediate and finished products that have both domestics and export demands.
So we're talking recycling, and you have just broken down the process into several phases, beginning with recovery, in terms of diverting plastic waste away from landfills, away from the environment, away from the ocean. And then taking it a step further, looking at the feasibility of processing and therefore developing a downstream industry that can generate economic activity.
Yes. In fact, I can, just to give you an idea of how the streams of recycling works. With energy have its upstream, midstream, and downstream. And the same thing applies for recycling. Well, as you know, plastics is a byproduct of oil, right? So just like how you extract oil from the earth, the environment, you refine it. That's a midstream, right? And then you convert it into resins. That's what you call an intermediate product. And then the bottles and the film plastics and other types of application, that's the downstream. So in recycling, recycle collection, that's the upstream. You're extracting it from the sources, the generators of the waste. The midstream, right now, that is the stage we're at right now, where we are sorting and we bale and we crushing or regrind, as so to speak. That is now sent until we start doing our processes ourselves right here in Tobago. That is right now exported to different parts of South America and Asia to further process it into recycled resins. From there, in mostly Asia, and in fact some parts of South America, converts it into finished products, whether it's bottles, fibers, other plastic packaging products. So that is where these streams of recycling takes place.
What type of materials do you process at the facility that was recently established in Tobago?
The types of materials that we accept in Tobago are various types of plastic bottles, metal cans, that's both aluminum and steel cans. We also accept the beverage cartons, that's what you call the Tetra Paks, cardboard. That's not limited to just boxes, your paper rolls, even the boxes that you package food items with, glass bottles, any food and beverage glass bottle. We are, by around March, we are going to expand the stream a bit based on the waste characterization study that we in the process of completing at this very moment. We are looking to include newspapers. We're looking at office paper. So basically, when you do a tally of the percentage-wise of the waste stream, that's basically we could be capturing as high as 70% of the waste generated across Tobago. And we're flexible with how we accept our material. Our key slogan is recycling made simple. So when people get to realize that the wide range of materials that we accept, people get to realize that it's less garbage they're throwing out. And how we package it, we are pretty flexible with that as well. All the plastic bottles, metal cans, the beverage cartons, as is Tetra Pak, those can go in the same bag. We further sort them at the facility before we process it. Our tagline for that is what you call the group it up and come in, So the only thing that you bag independently is the glass bottles and also the cardboard you bag. Even the clear film plastics that come with the packaging cases of water and stuff, stretch up, we accept those as well, once it is clean.
So as you said, group it up and come.
Come in.
And you handle...
Group it up and come in.
Yeah. I am very impressed by the number of streams that you handle and soon to be expanding into newspaper and office paper.
Even food waste, we are looking at expanding into food waste and waste oils. That is more the cooking oils. Based on what we're receiving so far, we realize a lot of the common trends is food waste the organics is competing with metal cans and stuff. Well, we know plastics is you can't outdo plastics, because we are working aggressively towards reaching that goal in 4 years for Tobago to become a zero waste to landfill island. So we working towards moving full speed ahead with that.
That's a very impressive goal, Shawn. Transforming Tobago into a zero waste to landfill island. And I'm hoping that that could also extend to Trinidad.
Well, I believe it would. The thing is, I'm not a stranger to Trinidad because, well, we started in Trinidad and we have been making some level of impact in Trinidad.
So coming back to the goal, this ambitious goal of zero waste to landfill, what does that mean?
Well, to bring in the zero waste to landfill, that is a measurable goal, in that why we said our theme, recycling made simple, is that once you have a very, the KISS principle, keep it simple. And, the other S could mean anything, but, so with that in mind is that, you see, when you first set up a robust and sustainable framework, in order for the framework to work, that requires where you have to understand the chain of custody for the waste, who generates the waste. When you see the waste is captured from the source, is who have that responsibility as to where it goes. So one of the key things that in order to reach that goal to become zero waste to landfill, you have to make sure your recovery mechanism is properly in place. Because when you see you have a robust recovery system, meaning that you're leveraging from the system, for example, like the THA operates the landfill. The THA also deals with waste collection from homes. So in order for we to reach that goal, we have to basically understand the key stakeholders that makes up the whole waste management grid. And you have to make sure that you get the key players on board. So you have to take it from a strategic planning perspective. Then now you start to now focus on implementation. And when you see you start implementation now, then the next step is evaluation. So when you see now you reach a step of evaluation, then you can be able to know that how you can enhance and expand your implementation. And that now triggers further planning. And that is how sustainability works. And one of the things that you have to do is that you have to learn from mistakes from previous ventures that took place, right? And being involved with with Plastic Keep, very good project,
Right.
The Northwest, they got the Northwest involved with recovery of plastic bottles. However, that could have gone a lot further if they had included the processing aspects of it.
You've given us some good insight into what is involved in a comprehensive waste management system. Definitely, this is the direction that we should be heading in terms of management of waste, especially as small islands with a limited land space.
Yes.
This goal of zero waste to landfill is definitely commendable, and I'm very excited about that development in Tobago.
Yes.
And what it could mean for our country, not only in terms of the environmental impact, but as you mentioned earlier, there's the ability for this sort of activity to generate both local employment and also to bring in Forex when you export the output, as you currently do, to South America and Asia.
Yes. One of my greetings in the launch, my speech that I gave at the launch of the Tobago Recycling Resource Initiative, where I've made some emphasis that we don't want to just become Right now, we supply raw material. We are a raw material provider to South America and Asia. Now, once you take it further where you start to now do the downstream aspects of it, where you're doing intermediate and finished product. That is where now you become a manufacturing provider to the world. Yeah. So that is why China is basically what you call the world factory, where they start off producing raw material, and they invested heavily in the recovery of raw material from the world, from the rest of the world. So when they recovered enough raw material from the rest of the world, they decide, listen, right, we have enough raw material, so let's focus on manufacturing to export to the rest of the world. So they accessing your raw material, they manufacturing the product and ship it back to you, providing your raw material, you know. Whereas with recycling, in order to become a zero waste landfill island, you have to do both. You have to be not only producing raw material, but you have to be a manufacturing provider. Because when you're a manufacturing provider, you're both serving the local businesses, and basically collectively our earning potential of foreign exchange, Forex, will expand significantly. So in order for zero waste landfill, it means you need to have a vibrant recycling sector established.
Well, you have certainly kickstarted that vibrant recycling sector, which I think would open up opportunities for other players to get involved. It highlights the point of us rethinking waste and seeing waste as a resource.
Right, yes.
With Trinidad and Tobago being an oil and gas based economy, we have been talking about diversification for a number of years, but this presents a real opportunity to diversify into the sector of sustainable waste management.
Yes. And you see, with diversification, one of the things that we as citizens, both individual and corporate citizens, we have to bear in mind that we can't expect the government to do everything, you know. Although, yes, it's unfortunate that a lot of stuff are state funded, state run, state operated, I mean. And you see, what we have to do is that we have to take the bold step. I mean, that's a serious challenge, yeah. But we have to take the bold step and stay the course by, making your necessary investment, be on your P's and your Q's, and you have to push. And one of the things that is going to be the heartland of an economy, especially I could tell you the pandemic have created this kind of opportunity where there will be a lot of public-private partnership mechanisms where, in order for the government or the state to continue its operations, you'll have to tap into the private sector resources in order to be able to sustain its economy at scale. We're talking about public-private partnership, and it's just to be clear on this. And I think that is where people tend to mix it up as well, where a ministry or a state agent engaging a state company to resources, that is not public-private partnership, The public sector engaging the private sector and paying them to carry out provide a service. That's not really public-private partnership. That is basically a service-based operation. The public-private partnership mechanism established for the Tobago Recycling Resource Initiative is that the Tobago House of Assembly have facilitated some certain resources, right? They had facilitated the infrastructure, operating space, warehouse space, the site preparation, that is via the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment, and even the aspect for the trainees like for the like productions workers, done through via their unemployment relief program that is under the DIQE. The Division of Health, Wellness and Family Development, because they have the purview of waste management. So their role in this is really to reduce waste. The landfill is under their purview. They have established what you call the litter eradication program, where they have custodians that focusing on removing all the litter from public places, including the roadside sides, beaches and stuff. And they have guys from the private sector are contracted to remove both garbage and now recyclables. Yeah. And that was 2 years ago. They started focusing on removing of recyclables. And now that the facility has been established, the coordinator, Mr. Jai Melville, had showed us in a meeting where when they started separating recyclables from the garbage, where the recyclables against waste is like before the facility, the waste was higher. After the facility, it shows where the recyclables outnumber the garbage big time. So they facilitate those aspects. RWL role in the public-private partnership is one, plant and machinery, right? Processing equipment, expertise, the trading and distribution of the commodities produced at the facility. Our next responsibility is product development, product and human resource development. Because remember, it's new disciplines that have been established because you're involved in processing equipment. Now it's a new set of skill sets that have to be established, where guys have to now have skill sets in operating machine, servicing machines, forklift, other material handling equipment and stuff, operating trailer trucks. So the sky's the limit as to how much sectors can benefit from that. And allowing beyond that, so that's why when you call our public-private partnership is where, because the resources, we are limited with resources, so that is why we literally share resources, where the THE provided the infrastructure and we leverage from the collection system. And RWL already have machinery. So we provide the expertise and the coordination of the waste and recycling for the entire island. And that is where all three partners come together. And that is what falls on the TRRI. So is that in order for the country to move forward, is similar mechanisms like these, arrangements like these, will have to be established. I know it's not something that is easy for the typical private sector to do, but you have to be an open mind to say, well, okay, it's better you share assets rather than trying to find money to put into it. Because sometimes, not all the time, funds will solve problems. It's more strategies is what, because we are in the information age, is more to do with strategy. You develop the best strategies based on the data collected, which becomes information. And that is where you'll be able to make, you do critical thinking and informed decision making based on that.
In the past, we may have had the luxury of throwing more money at our problems, but given the changes happening in our economy, you really have to collaborate. You have to look at partnerships to come up with creative and innovative solutions to the problems before us. The Tobago Recycling Resource Initiative is an excellent example of this, showing how private sector and government can collaborate for sustainable development. This project embodies harmonizing the three priorities of sustainability: economic viability, environmental protection, and social well-being. This so much to love about this initiative, but one of the aspects of it that I want to highlight is the involvement of community-based groups, NGOs, and
Yes.
other corporate entities in Tobago.
We have established recycling ambassadors, right? And that was an idea from the Secretary for Division of Infrastructure, Cohesion and the Environment, like Secretary Gracie Devines. And he had engaged the various groups, like the JCI Tobago, that's a civil society group, Environmental Research Institute of Charlottesville, the Rotary Club as well. They're the ones that are key points of contact for various communities. Like, for example, like Eric, the Environmental Research Institute of Charlottesville is stationed in there. They have facilitated a lot of groups that are conducting the research since the launch on recycling in Tobago, even throughout the Caribbean, the challenges and all different types of issues. In fact, the Castara Community Center, the Village Council, they also are recycling drop-off point for Castara, Lansomi, but Bloody Be Palliative, right? The Village Council, they are recycling ambassadors. The Rotary Club, they also as well serve in the western part of Tobago. They serve if we have to do like outreach, they facilitate, the manpower for that. That the Yahweh Foundation, in fact, they have been one of the community-based groups that have established a recycling initiative where for the past couple of years, where on Mondays, people could have dropped off their bottles and cans at the Boko Community Center. And they had to suspend that program because it didn't have no processing facility at that time. So when RWL and when the TRI was established, then that took a burden off of them, But at least with their persistence, that have given the grounds for that, yes, you need that processing in Tobago. When you're seeing how people making time from all over Tobago to find a way to drop off their stuff. So the recycling ambassadors, like the civil society groups and they too play an active role in sensitization as well. But you see what happened, we are taking it further, where the recycling ambassadors could serve as a point of contact where people can call the operation, they could ask questions, so we train them to be able to answer all the necessary questions possible in regards to the program. So the URP have recently rebranded. So right now URP is not really unemployment relief program. The tagline now, which is their hashtag called, they are useful, relevant, and productive. Useful, relevant, productive. That's the new tagline.
Oh, I love that.
Hashtag with it. So when I saw their effort, in order for you all to be useful, relevant, productive, you have to take it further. You all have manpower, you all have numbers. So we have to redirect the whole objectives and roles and responsibilities on the URP. And we have taken them into production. And we have even now set up a recycling task force. We have taken 20 ladies, and all of them represent these communities. And we have trained them to be part of the task force. They have been engaging the members of the community, that is all the homes and businesses and institutions within the community, to gather data on waste. And part of the data that we've been collecting, we characterizing the waste. So we've been capturing data on the types of waste, as your current practices, types of waste you generated, how often you generate it, where do you dispose, how often, are you willing to participate in door-to-door collection, is recycling important to you? It's those kind of questions. And the value will be amazing, the kind of data we collecting every week, And so We have data collection taking place in communities ranging from Belgarden, Delaford, Roxborough, Argyle, Speyside, Charlottesville, you know.
So, Shawn, we had such an insightful discussion around Zero Waste Tobago, and I'm very excited about this development. Tobago is definitely taking the lead in terms of
Sure.
sustainable development and sustainable waste management. What's next for RWL?
Well, the next step for RWL is to, right now, basically, the supply of material outdo our current machinery. Hence the reason we working as we speak to to reinvest in more automated processing systems, meaning that all our sorting is going to have some level of automation in it. The baling aspects as well, same thing. Going to have some form of automation in it. Yeah. So
Right.
we are making preparations to handle the high volumes when we face with it. In fact, if people want to get into recycling in Trinidad, recovery aspects in Trinidad, they don't have to worry about having to ship out. They don't
The
worry about
materials.
trying to risk markets to find ship it to Tobago.
Right.
So just as before, in Tobago, you have to go Trinidad for just about everything. At least some point in time, Trinidad could say, well, right, we could go to Tobago for this. We could go to Tobago for resin. We could go to Tobago for that.
Tobago seems to be emerging as the epicenter of sustainable waste management in the region.
Yes. I'll give you a tip at what I did during the Corona lockdown. I had shipped out a grade of plastic to Asia, and that was used to make the same disposable COVID mask that you all are using right here in Trinidad and Tobago and other places. Yeah. So that's to show the potential that the sky is the limit.
Waste could be the new oil.
It is.
I will certainly have you back on the podcast to get an update of how the Tobago Recycling Resource Initiative is going. And I'm just happy to discuss the value that lies in what we often dismiss as just waste and the potential it has for us to
Yes.
stimulate economic development while protecting the environment and improving social well-being. Thank you for listening to the Climate Conscious Podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe and connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Climate Conscious. And be sure to check out the Climate Conscious Lifestyle Kit. Maybe like me, you've tried to become more sustainable in the past, but found it expensive, inconvenient, inaccessible, or just ineffective. The Climate Conscious Kit takes the frustration away from your eco-friendly journey. We bring you our inaugural collection of quality, affordable, low-waste, plastic-free versions of items we regularly use. Join the climate conscious community in the sustainability transition, actively reducing our carbon footprint, avoiding single-use plastics, and diverting waste from our landfill. Pre-order your kit today.